Chef de l'opposition officielle.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Ben, c'est la Semaine canadienne de l'environnement. And with the forest fires that we've experienced around the province, the climate crisis is screaming to be acknowledged and to be taken seriously. The cost of climate change is real, whether from fires, from flooding, from erosion, for our air quality. Le Nouveau-Brunswick ne dispose pas actuellement d'un plan énergétique global qui inclut les énergies renouvelables. New Brunswick doesn't currently have a comprehensive clean energy plan. Best I can tell is one's coming in 2025, as per the commitments, which is after the next election, or maybe in 2023, as the Premier told folks in Europe. We hear of a secretariat, a hydrogen committee, we have a legislative committee, NB Power has a strategy coming out, but consumers, industry, and this government are suffering from the lack of an energy plan. Could the Premier please tell New Brunswickers when can we expect an integrated, comprehensive, green and sustainable energy strategy?
The Minister of Natural Resources and Energy Development.
Mr. Chair, to the member opposite, there was a certain amount of the answer to her own question in the question as she posed it. She went through the Secretariat. She went through the issues related to developing integrated resource plans with the utilities. She went through discussions about energy that we're developing, hydrogen plans and strategies. So she must be aware of the fact that this is an incredibly active government as it relates to walking into energy futures and making sure that New Brunswick is leading the way. That's very important, Mr. Speaker, and it's important that the members opposite recognize that we're carrying on the tradition, the investments that they made in the small modular reactor nuclear sector. It's important that the members opposite recognize that clean energy is a commitment and has been to the point where we generate 82% of the electricity in New Brunswick through non-emitting means. In addition to that, we don't stop there. The members opposite are very aware that we have a request for expressions of interest for over 200 megawatts of renewable clean energy. Mr. Speaker, reports come forward, but actions speak louder than words.
The Leader of Official Opposition.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Perhaps a member opposite can confirm then, can we expect that energy strategy in 2023 or 2025?
Minister of Natural Resources and Energy Development.
Mr. Speaker, to the member opposite, I really love how the Leader of the Official Opposition is presupposing that we're running the government in 2025. That sounds like a vote of confidence for us in the next election. So, that being the case, it's an opportunity to get up and stand and talk about the fact that energy strategies are something that are very, very much being worked on over the course of this year, whether it be an energy roadmap, whether it be a hydrogen strategy, whether it be the completion and the continuation of work that we're going to be doing in the nuclear sector. The member opposite this year will have more than enough reports as it relates to the advancements that we're making. In fact, Mr. Speaker, I'll be speaking this evening at the Canadian Nuclear Society event and meetings that are held in St. John. We've had a chance to speak all over this country and to audiences all over the world about how New Brunswick is an absolute leader in the energy futures and how we have solutions that are New Brunswick-based that can provide solutions, provide clean energy to jurisdictions all over the world. This is an opportunity for us to come together and celebrate that, Mr. Speaker.
Chef de l'Opposition.
Monsieur le Président, à l'époque où le coût de vie pèse sur de nombreuses familles néo-brunswickoises, the government is passing on what should be a fee to drive industrial innovation onto New Brunswick drivers to pay at the pump. Notre équipe a demandé au gouvernement actuel d'aider les familles en leur offrant une prestation élargie pour les aliments et pour le carburant, mais il ne l'a pas fait. We tabled a motion to provide relief to New Brunswickers with the removal of PST on energy bills, and they're thinking about it. We've tabled a motion, so now with the introduction of the Clean Fuel Standard, you've chosen to protect the big guys and stick it to the little guys. Why? Can the Premier explain why he chose to pass the cost of the clean fuel regulations off big producers and on to New Brunswickers?
The Honourable the Premier.
Mr. Speaker, I think that it's that the Leader of the Opposition should kind of look further to Ottawa and say, why is the federal government doing this to our province? Why are they imposing rules on our province that are raising the cost of energy? We've seen what's happened with the carbon tax, Mr. Speaker. We've seen the flow down and the raise in prices in every commodity, and now it's happening again. And yes, Mr. Speaker, the federal government would like it to believe that we had something to do with that. Well, you know what, Mr. Speaker? The federal government policies are imposing a new tax regime, a new fuel bar that's raising, Mr. Speaker, and they're doing it commencing July 1st. It's not about anything else than change in regulation to cause more at the pumps and more pain in the grocery store, Mr. Speaker. So I would think we should pass a motion in this floor, and we should implore the federal government to reduce and delay. We did that, all 4 provinces, and yes, including Newfoundland, put together a letter and said to the Minister of Energy, Pierre Trudeau, or Justin Trudeau, we want this delayed. No response, Mr. Speaker.
Deputy Opposition.
At Port Days, Mr. Speaker, last week, the Premier and I and other members of government got to hear from global leaders on the major trends impacting port development and growth. And I was struck by the themes many of the speakers shared. One was the importance of partnerships globally, as well as locally and critically with Indigenous communities. Then there were the sustainability initiatives being pursued, green corridors, new equipment and technology, reduced emissions that many of these port leaders described. And notably, CPKC CEO Keith Creel talked about CP's commitment to reduce fossil fuel use, to adopt battery and hybrid freight locomotive fuel cell technology, and a legacy to leave the company and the country better than he found it. So with the lack of an energy plan, and in the face of an industry that is broadly replacing fossil fuel, will the Premier follow in these port leaders' footsteps and CP CEO Keith Creel's footsteps and commit to no new fracking in New Brunswick?
The Honourable Premier.
Not long ago, a few weeks ago, I was in Europe and went to a hydrogen conference, Mr. Speaker, and we talked about different modes of modernization in terms of fuel and when it's going to come, whether it be nuclear, whether it be hydrogen. And, Mr. Speaker, it's all 10 or 15 years out. And you know what the ambassadors told me there? You know what the trade commissioners told me there in the Netherlands? We were hoping Canada could be some help. We're in a crisis here. And the thing that really stood out, Mr. Speaker, is they said we're 2 hours by flight from the Ukraine crisis. And here we are, Mr. Speaker, over here in Canada, not helping a bit in their energy crisis. And you know what? When you talk to leaders in energy in France, in Germany, in the Netherlands, they talk about a transition as we move forward. So, Mr. Speaker, what the Leader of the Opposition needs to understand is there's a path. And, Mr. Speaker, what our presentation on the energy format will bring out here in midsummer is this is a path that meets sustainability, but is a reality at the same time, Mr. Speaker. And what we need, and there's a science conference that's on the way in St. John now, and, Mr. Speaker, the point is we have to all understand the science and what's possible and get on board.